Kakve poruke je doneo u Beograd, Prištinu i severnu Kosovsku Mitrovicu, a sa kakvim utiscima odlazi u Sjedinjene Američke Države? Koja je uloga Sjedinjenih Američkih Država u dijalogu Beograda i Prištine i da li će taj dijalog i u kom duhu biti nastavljen? O tome razgovaram sa specijalnim izaslanikom Sjedinjenih Američkih Država za Zapadni Balkan Gabrijelom Eskobarom. Mr. Escobar, thank you for talking to anyone.
Thank you.
What messages have you brought to Pristina, Belgrade, North Mitrovica, and what messages are you taking to the United States?
Well, the message that I came with was that there is a very high level of concern in the international community about the potential for violence over these measures that are being implemented by the government of Kosovo. The impression that I got from visiting Priština, Mitrovica, and Belgrade was that there's a commitment from all sides to try to find a peaceful solution to exit from this crisis. And that's the message that I'm taking back to Washington, that I have some optimism that the two sides will find a compromise solution that will allow people in Kosovo to continue to lead peaceful lives.
Did you have some proposals for the resolving issues about documents and license plates?
Well, I have to clarify, the United States is not a party to the EU-facilitated dialogue. There is an EU-led process, and we support that process. So all of the proposals and all of the recommendations are coming out of the European Union.
You were sitting in the negotiation process in Brussels. What was exactly your role?
Well, I was not sitting in the negotiations. I was there present to support them. So my role was to encourage both sides to be constructive and flexible, to signal that the United States fully supports this process, that this process is the sole process for the entire Euro-Atlantic community in resolving the issues between Kosovo and Serbia. But additionally, I wanted to signal that the United States views this as a very important process, that we are invested in this process, and that we will insist on the implementation of the solutions coming out of the process. But we'll also look for ways to make them opportunities. We'll provide political support, economic support, capacity building, and anything else that we can do to make sure that these solutions work for both sides.
Ambassador Hill said that Serbian side was well prepared, but the other side was not. Was it your impression too?
Well, look, the negotiations are in a very sensitive period right now. They're in a very sensitive phase. So I don't want to affix blame because, to be quite honest, Brussels was the beginning, and I think that we have come a long way since then. So as long as we have a solution that is both peaceful, enforceable, durable, and doesn't complicate the life of people living in Kosovo, particularly those living in North Kosovo, I think we're going to be okay. And I am optimistic that we'll get there.
How it is possible that your presence didn't encourage Kosovo's Prime Minister to be more flexible since America is considered as a Kosovo's significant partner?
Well, look, we are their significant partner, and they are our partner. So we do have a very open dialogue with Kosovo. And we have encouraged them to be flexible and constructive. And I do see some goodwill there. Now, they have their own concerns, and we have to take those into account as well. So as we go forward, we'll continue to rely on that partnership with Kosovo, but we'll also rely on the goodwill and the improving relationship between the United States and Serbia. So I really want to make clear that I have room for optimism after today.
We heard that U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken would not hesitate to engage in further negotiation process if necessary. Is it necessary right now?
I would say no. Now, I will clarify. Not that he wants to engage in the negotiation process. He's willing to make calls in support of the negotiating process and to push the two parties toward greater cooperation. Now, I would have to say that right now, what we're talking about, license plates and IDs, are actually a small item over a comprehensive negotiating platform. We will need potentially American engagement, not negotiation, but engagement as we get further along the dialogue, as we get further along the path to success, to unlocking a peaceful relationship between Serbia and Kosovo and unlocking the European perspective for both countries.
You said the Association of Serbian Municipalities must be implemented as obligation from Brussels Agreement from 2013. Did you get some guarantees about deadlines?
Well, we're not imposing deadlines. Now, the only deadline, if you can call it a deadline, is that it must be on the next agenda. So we will have to have a discussion about the association and how we implement it. It is an existing commitment. It is a signed agreement. And it is an agreement that has already gone through certain processes in the Kosovo government that have validated that agreement. So in the meeting between the Secretary of State and President Osmani and Prime Minister Kurti, Mr. Blinken said that it must be implemented, and we agree.
You already shared your concerns about potential violent events in northern Kosovo. Is there a real potential of conflict?
I hope not. I would hope that people understand that no one should die and no one should be hurt over the question of license plates. But I also, beyond the hope, we have also invested in the security and stability of Kosovo and the region as a whole. KFOR is present, ULEX is present, and we have a very, very close engagement with both governments in trying to resolve all of the questions before we get to any point that could potentially create violent situations. So I hope we don't get there.
In the past period, citizens of northern Kosovo have testified about the increased presence of special units of Kosovo police, which often stopped citizens. Did you talk about this topic with Kosovo Prime Minister?
We talked about it, but only briefly. Now, police forces should be there to provide confidence to the people that they are looking after the security and safety of the population. So we encourage them to look for ways to create confidence-building measures between police forces and populations, not just in northern Kosovo, but throughout Kosovo. And not only is that a message that we give to the government of Kosovo, it's one that we give to all of the governments of the region.
But do you think it's common for heavily armed hammers to pass through a city on a daily basis?
Well, look, I don't want to comment on that because we have a very close relationship with the security forces of Kosovo. We have, like I said, KFOR and ULEX and police training and judicial training programs. The European Union does too. We're trying to get all of the police forces in the region to a more professional level. Now, there are some gaps in all of this. But the important thing is that we have to continue to make gains. And as we make those gains and those reforms, it'll also prepare you for closing chapters once you become formal candidates for the European Union. So I would say that throughout the region, there is room to create more professional police forces.
If two sides agree by September 1st, what is guaranteed that such a crisis or unilateral action will not happen again?
Well, one of the outcomes of Brussels, which is really important, is that the two leaders agreed to meet on a monthly basis. And I would have to say that the meeting between President Vučić and Prime Minister Kurti was really good. It was really professional. It was really calm. And it was really encouraging to see the level of openness in the presence of the HR VP Borel and Mr. Lajčák. So I think that we can see the beginnings of an improved relationship between the two.
Have you discussed with President Vučić why a significant role in meetings with Serbs from Kosovo is performed by the leader of the Srpska lista, who is on the sanction list of United States, Milan Radojičić?
Well, first of all, I don't meet with anybody who's on our sanctions list. And so no one at the meeting that I attended was on the sanctions list. So that part is very, very clear to everyone. The people I did meet with were very constructive and very committed to making sure that the communities that they represent remain peaceful and stable.
We know position of the United States about status of Kosovo, but why would Serbia have an interest to recognize Kosovo if you expect it from the Serbia?
Well,
or do you expect it?
I mean, I think we have to move away from the narrative that Kosovo is Serbia and move toward the narrative that Kosovo and Serbia are Europe. And so you have a common future. And that future is moving rapidly away from the problems of the 90s and quickly to the opportunities of the 21st century. The 21st century for this region will be one of economic opportunity, will be one where the Western Balkans become a driver of growth for Europe, for the entire continent, where you will be a center of energy production, of renewable energy, of IT, shipping, transportation, and a whole lot of other economic sectors that only this region can provide. So the reality is that eventually you're all going to be linked anyway, either through some regional economic conditions, whether it's CEFTA or Common Regional Market or Open Balkans, and eventually in the European Union. So eventually you are going to have a good relationship with Kosovo. You are going to be linked with Kosovo and Albania, North Macedonia, Montenegro, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. So the quicker we resolve some of these issues, the quicker we can get to that future of opportunity.
Serbs from Kosovo, regardless of their participation in Kosovo institutions, see Serbia as their state. How you will deal with it in the dialogue?
Well, let's be very clear. The people of those people in Kosovo are dual citizens. They're the citizens of Kosovo and the citizens of Serbia. So in that regard, their rights on both ends have to be protected. So they have rights as Serbian citizens to vote and to participate in the economic and cultural life of Serbia. But as citizens of Kosovo, they have the right to be protected by the institutions of Kosovo. So we're insisting on that. We're insisting that all of their democratic rights be protected.
Mr. Eskobar, thank you for this conversation for N1.
Thank you very much.
O situaciji na Kosovu, dijalogu Beograda I Prištine I ulozi Amerike u tom dijalogu razgovarala sam sa izaslanikom Sjedinjenih Američkih Država za Zapadni Balkan Gabrijelom Eskobarom. Ostanite uz program N1 televizije.